Hello. Okay, so today I wanted to keep telling you about some helping verbs, right? Modal verbs. And today we're going to talk about the words might, will, and should. Okay, so it'll be a little bit confusing. You won't get it right away. If you do, awesome. If not, it's okay. This is kind of complicated, but I wanted to show it to you because people say it all the time in English. So sometimes it's kind of hard to understand people. Okay, so when you use the word might, um, like I might take the bus, like this sentence says. So if you say I take the bus, right? Simple present tense means that you do it a lot. I take the bus. It's how I go places. I take the bus. I always do it. But if you say, "Ooh, I might take the bus," totally changes what it means because instead of saying that's something I do a lot, it's telling somebody, I might do this. I it's a maybe. I'm thinking about taking the bus. Okay, so just real quick before we talk about this word, like a lot of English words, might has two meanings. Now, when you use it as a verb, we'll talk about that. But it also it can mean strength, like a very strong thing or person, when you use it as a noun. So where a word comes in the sentence in English tells us if it's a verb or a noun, right? What it is next to tells us if it's a verb or a noun. So if you said she pushed with all her might, that means that she's pushing with all of her strength. And that's when you use it as a noun. But today we're going to be talking about the word might as a modal verb. So for example, if I said, we might take a vacation in September, I'm using it as a verb, a modal verb, a helping verb. Okay, so let's talk about this. So how do we put it together? Remember that when you use a modal verb, you have the modal verb and you have the main verb that's telling you what the action is, and you make sure that they're right next to each other. So might is right next to the main verb. So might leave, might fall, might cry. And we use might to talk about possibility. So when we use the word might, it means that we're talking about things like uh, things that maybe will happen, things that will probably happen, something that, to use another verb we learned, something that may happen. So for example, we use the word might. The roads might be bad tomorrow. So if it is snowing, if it's raining, you could say, the roads might be bad tomorrow because we don't know. If it snows, uh, the plows could come through and clean the roads, but it could keep snowing all night and there's a ton of snow everywhere. So you don't know, so you use the word might. The roads might be bad tomorrow. Or she might be late this morning. Like if I was like friends with my coworker and she stayed out all night the night before and she hasn't come to work late or work yet, my boss is like, "Hey, where is Tiffany?" I'm like, "Oh, she might be late this morning." There you go. You use it for something that to tell people, "Oh, this is something that can or will not happen. I don't know. It's a probably, it's a maybe." Okay, so the next word we're going to talk about is will. Will. So if you said they go to the movies, that means they, whoever they are, my mom, my dad, they go to the movies. It means they do it a lot. They go to the movies. But if you say, oh, they will go to the movies, whoa, all of a sudden we're talking about the future just because we added the word will right here. That's it. All we had to do was add will and bam, it's like completely different meaning almost. They will go. So it's talking about the future. So Now you're probably thinking, Allison, is will a verb tense or a helping verb? Because you taught us earlier that will is used for the future tense. But now you're saying it's a helping verb, it's a modal verb? Well, here's the thing about English. So let's look at some verbs. We'll look at the verb walk, right? To walk. So we can write it this way, which is the simple present way, right? Just it's by itself. Then we can write it in the continuous way, walking, right? Just add an ing at the end. We can also put an ed at the end, right? And that's past. So walk is, we use it to talk about the present, to talk about things we do a lot. Ing verbs, we talk about things that are, are going to be happening and keep happening, or something that will start and keep going. And we use ed, right? Walked, to talk about, to let people know this action happened in the past. But when we want to talk about the future tense, we just use the word will, right? That's one of the ways we do it. So instead of changing the word, the verb itself, we add another word to talk about the future. So that's why will is a helping verb and not just a way to change the tense of the verb. So it helps people to understand, oh, this is talking about the future. Okay, so for the modal verb, the helping verb will, it's the same as all the other ones. You want to put will right next to the main verb. So will drive, will be, will talk. That's how we do it. I will talk to you tomorrow. He will be late. They will drive home tomorrow. That's how we use it. That's how we put it together. And we use will to talk about the future, or we can use it to make a polite request. So, for example, this is how talking about the future works with will. I will call you when I get home. So this is saying, I will in the future, when I get home, I'm here right now, when I get home, I call. So that's why we say I will call instead of I call you when I get home. Because I will lets people go, ah, this verb is in the future. That's what she's talking about. Okay, the next one. The weather will be warm this week. The weather will be warm this week. Again, the weather, not right now, but in the future, will be warm. It's going to be warm in the future. So we say will be warm. This next one, she will go to medical school. She will go to medical school. That's letting people know it's in the future. This verb, everything that's happening in the rest of this sentence, everything that you're talking about, boom, we're talking about the future. And we don't have to change the verb because this word will is telling us this is the future. So we don't have to change the verb to past tense, continuous. Don't have to mess with it. Okay, the other thing you can use it for, you can use will to make a polite request. So if you want to be really, really polite and ask somebody something, you usually say, instead of saying, get me another coffee, you would say, will you get me another coffee? And it's more polite, it's nicer. If you don't understand what somebody said, if you didn't hear them, or you need them to talk slower, you could say, will you explain that again? Will you explain that again? Or you could say, hey, boss, will I need to come to work early? Will I need to be here tomorrow? Will I need to come early for the meeting? It's just a polite way to ask the question. And all you have to do is start the question with will instead of you will explain that again. You say, will you explain that again? Or you could say, I will need to come to work early to make it a question. Will I need to come to work early? All right, the last one we're going to talk about today is the word should. 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 It's a weird word, but we have dinner on Thursday can be changed to we should have dinner on Thursday. This one is we have dinner on Thursday. We do it all the time. It's regular. We should have dinner on Thursday means, oh, you're like inviting somebody. You're saying, oh, this is something that we need to do. I want to do this. It's like inviting somebody or giving them advice. We should have dinner on Thursday. So this one is just like all the other ones. You want to put should right next to the main verb. So should sleep. I should sleep in tomorrow. Should talk. I should talk slower. Should eat. I should eat breakfast. There you go. You just gotta make sure they're next to each other. Okay, so we use the word should to give advice to people, and we use it to make a suggestion. And a suggestion is when you're like, hey, do it this way. Except a suggestion is nicer. It's more polite than just saying, no, do it this way. So, for example, when you give advice or a suggestion, if you have like for example, you have a sister that's having a baby and she's feeling really sick and she's in pain, you could say, oh, my sister and her husband, they should go to the hospital immediately. They should go. So what you're saying is you're kind of giving advice. They should go to the hospital immediately. You're saying, oh, this is something that I think needs to happen. But you're doing it in a polite way. They should go to the hospital. The other thing you could do, another example is, you should ask for time off. Your coworker comes in, they're so tired, they're like, oh, I'm so busy and I'm so tired. You know what? And you could give advice. You could say, you should ask for time off. You should ask for time off. And it's giving them advice or it's suggesting to them, you're kind of telling them what you think they should do. The next example is, he should be more careful. He should be more careful. So if my brother breaks his leg because he was like out with his friends and stuff, I'd be like, ugh, he should be more careful. So that's why we use should, is because it's kind of a way for us to say, I think this needs to happen. But it's a way where it's polite and it's nice. It's also things that you can talk about yourself with. Like you could say, oh, I should go to bed early tonight. You're telling yourself, okay, this is something you're saying, this is something I want to happen. This is something that I think would be best or something that is best. So that's it for today. So we talked about might, will, and should. And then the previous days, we talked about may, we talked about could, and we talked about can. So we're going to keep talking about these helping verbs. And we're going to talk about how they're kind of, you don't have to use, can only with this kind of possibility. There are lots of verbs that you can use that you can kind of use in the same way. So we'll keep talking about in the other lessons, but that's it for today, and I'll see you next time.